Have you ever noticed that some brands just feel better? Not necessarily because you've used them either, and not because you've compared every feature, not because you've done hours of research. They just feel better. They feel more trustworthy, more premium, more capable, and more professional. And the weird thing is, a lot of times we're making those judgments long before we've actually experienced the product. There's a psychological principle for this. It's called the halo effect. The halo effect is the tendency for humans to take one positive attribute and allow it to influence everything else we think about a person, a company, or a product. In simple terms, if one thing looks good, we tend to assume other things are good too. And this explains a huge amount of branding. Think about Apple. Whether you're an Apple person or not doesn't really matter. I'm not. You might be. Either way. Most people, including me, would agree that Apple products feel premium. But here's the question. How do you know that before you've used it? How do you know that when you're standing in the store looking at a product you've never owned? How do you know that? Part of it is experience, granted, but part of it is perception. The design is premium. The packaging is premium. The photography is premium. The stores are premium. Everything surrounding the product creates a positive impression. And that positive impression creates a halo. Suddenly, people start assuming other things are true. The software must be better. The support must be better. The quality must be better. And sometimes they're right. And sometimes they're not. But the halo effect is influencing the decision either way. And this doesn't just happen with brands either. It happens with people too. We've all met someone who is charismatic, confident, well-spoken, and successful. And almost immediately, we start assigning other positive traits to them. We assume they're intelligent, right? We assume they're competent. We assume they're trustworthy, even though we may not actually have any evidence for any of those things yet. One positive characteristic creates a halo around everything else. Now, here's why this matters for marketers. A lot of people think branding is logos, colors, fonts, taglines. And yes, those things matter, and they are a part of it. But they're not really the point. The point is perception. Branding is the process of creating expectations in the mind of the customer. Because the reality is that customers rarely evaluate every detail. They're busy. They have lives. They don't sit around analyzing every company with perfect objectivity. I know that we do that as marketers, but we're close to it. Instead, they're looking for signals. Signals help people make decisions faster. And the halo effect is one of the strongest signals we have. Think about two websites. One feels modern, professional, clean, easy to navigate. The other feels cluttered, outdated, and confusing. Even if the products were identical, which company would you trust more? And most of you know the answer to that question. And that's the halo effect at work. One experience influences everything else. Which leads me to a lesson I think a lot of companies miss. Every customer touch point matters. And you've heard me talk about this in other videos a lot. And it's not because every touch point directly creates a sale, but because every touch point contributes to perception. The website, the photography, the packaging, the customer service, content, emails, your social media, your sales process. Each one is either strengthening the halo or weakening it. And all those things are cool and all, but there's always the other side. The halo effect works both ways. There's a positive halo, but there's also a negative halo. A single bad experience can create assumptions just as easily as a positive one. A sloppy website can make people question your professionalism. Poor communication can make people question your competence. Blech. A frustrating checkout process, it can make people question the quality of the product itself, even when those things aren't directly related. Because humans naturally connect the dots, and we assume consistency, for better or worse. And that's why some brands feel right. Not because customers have perfect information, but because the company has created enough positive signals that trust starts forming before the customer has all the facts. That's incredibly powerful. But it's also a responsibility, because eventually reality catches up. A great brand can create a positive halo, but only a great experience can sustain it. If the experience doesn't match the perception, the halo, it disappears. That's why branding isn't about pretending. It's about alignment. The strongest brands aren't the ones that create the biggest halo. They're the ones that consistently reinforce it over and over again until perception and reality become the same thing. If there's one thing I'd leave with you, it's this. People don't experience your brand one piece at a time. They experience it as a whole. And whether you realize it or not, they're constantly using one part of the experience to judge the others. That's the halo effect. And understanding it might completely change how you think about branding. And I hope this video did that for you and helped you. Thank you for being here. Thanks for staying till the end, and I'll see you next week.